As we emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic, we still face multiple crises. One of the most glaring is the housing crisis. It doesn't just stop at our national borders, it's global. And as we see the rates of evictions and homelessness increase, those numbers can overshadow the real human cost.
We're in clearly a housing explosion right now in terms of rent increases. And the sad reality is that because the state legislature has a preemption in place, there's virtually nothing we can do at a local level to cap rents. Our challenge right now is a supply and demand issue. It's also the fact that we have virtually no local investors who are putting money into our housing stock and upgrading them. These are all out-of-state people. They're real estate investment trusts. They're people who are just simply pooling money together without any attachment to the local people. They're putting a little bit of money into them, jacking the rents up, refinancing based on the new rents, and taking that money that they get in the refi and putting it into another project. And they're turning people out on the street at the same time.
Developing housing in Tucson is not easy, even with the federal programs like the Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Program.
The Tucson Housing and Community Development Department lists a number of obstacles the city has come up against in building new affordable housing. Some of those include supply chain issues, labor shortages, zoning, and competition for developers statewide.
It requires not just the city to do these efforts, but it really does take all the partners, all the stakeholders to help us get there.
Without the development of new affordable housing, we are left with apartment complexes like the Monterey Garden apartments located in Midtown Tucson, and it's a microcosm of what's happening across the city. Northstar Management and Consulting Incorporated had managed the apartments for several years before buying the property in December 2021, after which they began terminating the leases of all 52 units. Many of the tenants have lived there for years, are on rental assistance, fixed income, or have disabilities, and have nowhere to go despite looking for affordable housing. Attempts were made to reach out to Northstar for comment, but they didn't respond.
They put a note on my door the day before Christmas Eve day saying I had 60 days to get out of here, and I cried. I'm very stressed out. I might have to have surgery. I have to move. I can't find a place. I am lucky enough to have people who will help me. I can stay with people, but there's a lot of people here that don't have that. And what's going to happen to them? That the tenants union was going to come and give us some answers too. There's just no place to find rent for my voucher. My voucher's for $837. You're wanting us to have 3 times our income. Well, half the people in here aren't going to have that. And on the Pima County website, it shows all these apartments and it says they accept Section 8 and the rent's 6 something, but that's incorrect. Like, the websites need to be updated as well, because I've gone to a lot of places just for them to say, oh, we don't accept vouchers at this time, or the new owners don't want Section 8. Almost $200 just to find out if I qualify. And I'm scared and I'm mad and I feel discriminated against.
Arizona Public Media reached out to several apartment listings on Pima County's website that accepts rental assistance. We spoke with 7 managers who said that they were at capacity and on average at a waiting list of 3 to 5 years.
Why landlords don't work with us right now is the market is very hot. A lot of times our tenants can't get into a unit because the rent is higher than what our program allows. And so we recently received a waiver from HUD to go higher. We're at the maximum. Some tenants are successful at finding units, but most are struggling. We've made significant changes in the past 2.5 years, but a lot of landlords who stopped working with our program are not aware of those changes.
But even the tenants at Monterey Garden apartments, who are not reliant on rental assistance, are being pushed into housing insecurity because the hikes in rent already imposed are eating into their disposable incomes.
I was paying $928, and it went up to $1,024 because they are adding in water. You know, it's supposed to be all utilities paid. The rent increase actually really impacted us. I mean, yeah, it's only about $100, but it's $100. There's not really a whole lot of money to be getting them clothes or going out and, going to dinner or having fun or anything like that, because everything's getting so expensive. At this point, so it's going to be hard for me to find a place by the time they kick me out too.
If you look at reviews for North Star properties online, you'll find consistent grievances left by tenants over the years. People cite harassment and abusive behaviour from management, being cheated financially, and multiple complaints of apartments under code with no attempts by management to make repairs. Again, attempts were made to reach out to North Star for comment, but they didn't respond.
There's safety hazards throughout this property that have never been addressed but have been brought to their attention. I've been flooded out 4 times. They don't compensate you for any of that kind of stuff. My heat was out for a year. My toilet's been broken for about 2 years now. I actually had a storage unit from them too. They hit my credit with additional charges when they weren't due, kind of thing. That's these people. That's who you're dealing with. The truth is, I'm going to wind up living out of my car for a while. I will. I have to be out same time as her, end of the month. I haven't even started looking yet.
When we were at the Monterey Garden apartments to conduct interviews, we witnessed the eviction of Laura and Nick.
We can't have it until tomorrow morning or an hour. Can we have an hour?
An hour for what?
To wait till he comes home and get my cats? I don't know what to do.
Laura and Nick had been living at the Monterey Garden apartments for over a year. They shared a lease with Laura's mother, who paid half the rent, but she passed away in August 2021. Not being able to pay the full amount, they sought assistance from the Tucson Eviction Prevention Program. The program accepted their case and were ready to pay back rent and 3 months' rent in advance. Laura and Nick said that North Star requested written verification of this and would grant them more time before issuing an eviction. But while they were getting it in writing from their case manager, North Star proceeded with the eviction anyways. So even having jumped through all those hoops, they now have an eviction on their records and will likely not be accepted into any housing and face homelessness.
I'm just so focused right now on trying to make it work and emailing these people, and it's so frustrating because
you have an eviction on your record. Within the first 2 years, they won't, no place will take you.
No place.
There are people that do have challenges in life that do throw a curveball and they have no choice and they end up in a predicament like this. And I think that's more than those that are scamming the system. We're not computer literate, so it takes a little extra time for us to get all this figured out. But nonetheless, we've done it, and then they don't want it.
The United Nations states that forced evictions are a gross violation of a range of internationally recognized human rights, broadly defined as the permanent or temporary removal against the will of individuals from the homes and lands that they occupy, without the provision of and access to appropriate forms of legal or other protections.
Lots of landlords, they are aware that the assistance is coming, but it's often to their benefit to follow through on the eviction, mainly because they know they can increase the rent for the next tenants coming in for the sake of financial gain. In this market, we're seeing a big displacement of families that are at the lower end of the income spectrum, and some of them do have stable income, but just not enough to pay the rents that many of the landlords are asking for right now.
The landlord-tenant law in Arizona heavily favors landlords. One of the things that I saw when I was a tenant attorney is landlord attorneys come in with stacks of files, which each represent a human being and a family in a lot of cases. The tenants don't show up either because they don't comprehend the notice and or they don't understand the law. And if the tenants weren't there, it was very much like an assembly line process. That's what's happening to these people. The landlords have the ability, usually financially, to hire an attorney if they need to navigate this. The tenants usually don't. People need to be aware of what their rights are under the Landlord-Tenant Act. The Landlord-Tenant Act needs to be amended, and also tenants need to be educated in layman's terms about what the process is. These are basic needs that people need to be able to navigate a system that is stacked against them and to be able to prevent themselves from becoming homeless.
When we can come. You all know that the development has been moving forward.
One way tenants are empowering themselves is by joining organizations like the Tucson Tenants Union, who are fighting for housing justice. The rapidly growing group heard about North Star's plans and rallied together to help the tenants, even corresponding with North Star to see if the company would grant residents more time to find secure housing. It didn't bring any changes.
This should be a problem that we're all facing together, because if you're not in the process right now of either being evicted or your rent's being increased, you're gonna be. You're gonna be. Because if it's not happening to you, it's happening to your nana. When you make it personal and you say, that person there is my mom, my sister, this affects all of us together. God bless you.
Right on.
Again, the Monterey Garden Apartments is just a microcosm. Tenants all over the city are being priced out of their homes, and the consequences are immense. Studies show that the crisis will continue to disproportionately affect the most economically vulnerable and marginalized: women, children, and people of color, leading to greater inequality, gentrification, segregation, and creating new forms of social conflict.